Why the hell is the CEO's $3,000 espresso machine making that grinding noise again? I muttered, crawling behind the server rack with a flashlight between my teeth and my maintenance keys jangling. That damn Italian contraption was wired into the same circuit as the HVAC for the East Wing, something I discovered after the Great Latte blackout of 2019. Nobody documented that, of course. Nobody but me ever documented anything around here. But I knew because I remember everything. Name's Tom Sullivan, 49 years old. And I've been keeping this building breathing for 15 years. That Tuesday morning started like every other for a decade and a half. Me unlocking the converted warehouse door at 6:45 a.m., 25 minutes before the tech bros rolled in with their $8 cold brew and participation trophies. The cleaning crew had left coffee grounds in the utility sink again. Someone from development left pad thai in the break room fridge over the weekend. The kombucha exploded. Not technically my job, not in any contract. But guess who scraped fermented tea off a smart refrigerator with a paint scraper and paper towels? This guy. Some days I felt like electrical tape, held everything together while staying invisible. Got used exactly the same way, only noticed when something broke. The CEO thought I was just the maintenance guy, even though my business card said Facilities Operations Manager. My inbox had 2,800 unread urgent emails from people who couldn't reset a circuit breaker to save their cryptocurrency fortunes. It got worse when they brought in that new HR hotshot, Kevin Walsh. Fresh out of some MBA program, all buzzwords and business casual. Kid once asked me where the water main shutoff was. I told him, same place your common sense went, son. Underground and hard to find. He didn't laugh. I didn't go to fancy colleges or wear suits that cost more than my Harley. But I knew that building like you, know an old truck, which pipes sang when it was about to storm, which electrical panel sparked if you opened it too fast, where the main HVAC unit wheezed when the humidity hit 75%. I'd kept Velocity Pay breathing through power surges, plumbing disasters, and 3 CEOs worth of bad decisions. Navy taught me systems thinking. 15 years on the job taught me corporate thinking. And they just forgot. No recognition, no bonus, no handwritten notes. Just once when I stayed late to fix the server room cooling after someone cranked the thermostat to 85 digs, the old VP of operations gave me a stale protein bar and said, "You're a lifesaver, Terry. My name's Tom." At some point, I stopped correcting them. I wasn't trying to be the hero. I just believed in doing things right. That lease, the one that let us squat in prime Portland real estate for a fraction of current market rate, I co-signed that back in 2008 when Velocity Pay had 5 employees and a business plan held together with venture capital dreams. The founder, Austin Palmer, asked me to guarantee the lease. Company had no credit back then. I put my name right next to his on the signature line. Nobody else qualified. I didn't mind. Thought we were building something together. Like most startups, they eventually forgot who kept the lights on. You ever walk into a room you've maintained for 15 years and suddenly realize nobody sees you unless the internet goes down or there's a mouse in the server room? That was me. Invisible until everything went to hell. Then suddenly I was everyone's dad and janitor rolled into one. God forbid the air conditioning stopped working. Then I was Saint Tom, savior of sweaty software developers. So I kept showing up, quiet, competent, reliable as a craftsman wrench. Then came the Monday. HR sent an all-staff email about strategic restructuring opportunities. In corporate speak, that's like a funeral director saying final arrangements. My gut went cold. I'd seen enough layoffs during the dot-com crash to know what was coming. The meeting invite arrived at 4:58 p.m. Subject line, quick check-in, HR. No context, no warning, just a calendar bomb dropped into my schedule. I walked in the next morning, punctual as ever, wearing my navy polo with the small hole near the pocket and work boots that had seen 3 building renovations. That polo had survived 1 office fire, 2 server meltdowns, and a surprise holiday party that ended with the marketing director crying in the supply closet. It was my armor. Kevin from HR was already seated in conference room B. He smiled like a used car salesman. Next to him sat some woman from legal I'd never seen before. Sharp suit, sharper attitude, and a manila folder she kept stroking like it contained nuclear codes. "Tom, thanks for coming in," Kevin chirped. "We wanted to have a restructuring conversation." That word restructuring hit like a sledgehammer. I'd heard it before, translated it for others, covered their shifts after they got restructured right out the door. "We're going in a new direction," he said. I stared at him. That direction wouldn't happen to include me, would it? Silence. Then a gentle slide of the folder across the table. Inside, generic severance package with more fine print than a mortgage document. 3 months' pay, NDA clause, health insurance through the end of the month. How generous. The letter didn't even spell my last name right. Called me Tom Sullivan. 15 years, and they couldn't proofread. "We're asking for your badge and keys today," the lawyer added. "Also any company property in your possession." I took a deep breath, reached into my pocket and set the badge on the table like a poker chip. Next, the key ring. All 7 of them, labeled in my handwriting from 2009. Back when I used to stay late rewiring the security panels myself. "You sure?" I asked, eyes locked on Kevin. He blinked. "You sure you want these keys? Last chance." He gave me that HR face. Sympathetic, bland, fake as artificial sweetener. "It's not personal, Tom." "Sure it isn't," I muttered, standing. "Just remember, you can't fire what you never understood." I walked out before I could say something that'd get me sued. The Portland rain felt sharp on my skin. Traffic buzzed around me, but I was numb. I didn't get angry, not in front of them. Not after 15 years of fixing their mistakes, maintaining their systems, keeping their startup dream from short-circuiting. They wanted to forget me? Fine. But they forgot too much. I didn't drive straight home. Pulled into a Starbucks parking lot, killed the engine, and called Tony Ricci. Tony was my buddy from the bowling league. Grew up working construction, now he's a real estate attorney with a permanent scowl and nervous laugh when people mention property disputes. He picked up on the second ring. "Tom, everything okay?" "No," I said, "but it's about to be. You remember that lease we co-signed in 2008? A pause, then a low whistle. "Oh, hell. That lease." "Yep." "Do they know who's still on it?" I smiled for the first time that day. Not a friendly smile, a dangerous one. "They just asked for my keys," I said. So, I think it's time they got exactly what they asked for. That evening, my apartment smelled like motor oil and old Metallica albums. My way of staying sane. I dropped my work bag by the door, kicked off my boots, and walked straight to the file cabinet where I kept the insurance policy folder. Never thought I'd actually need it, but here we were. Folder was blue, labeled in black Sharpie. Lease 2008, Tom plus Austin. I pulled it out with the same care you'd use handling dynamite. Inside, original lease agreement, 4 amendments, receipt for the industrial carpet I bought for the lobby before Velocity Pay could afford real furniture, and a napkin with the founder's kid's crayon drawing from, back when the office was just one room above a Thai restaurant. 15 years ago, they couldn't get a lease if their IPO depended on it. No credit, no revenue, just one laptop and a fax machine that sounded like a dying modem. Austin sat across from me at Denny's and said, "Tom, if you don't co-sign, we'll be working out of my garage. My girlfriend will kill me." I didn't just co-sign. I went full guarantor, just until you get established, he said. We never had that conversation again because after that, it was always me who handled the lease renewals, me who dealt with the property management company, me who coordinated HVAC upgrades, electrical work, the weird smell in conference room A that turned out to be a dead rat inside the drop ceiling. They never took my name off the lease, never even asked. I sat at my kitchen table, cracked open a Coors, and started reading like my future depended on it. Page 8, Section 6C. Renewal of lease term shall require written notice from lessees no later than 30 days prior to expiration date. I blinked, read it again, then checked the expiration date, August 31st, 2023. Today was September 3rd, 3 days too late. They hadn't renewed, hadn't even sent an email, not a peep from legal, not a word from Kevin, not a single panic call about zoning permits or rental rates. They were so busy playing unicorn startup and disrupting payment processing that they missed the most important deadline in their corporate existence. I leaned back in my chair. A slow grin crept across my face. The kind of smile you wear when you realize the universe just handed you a crowbar. It wasn't just that they fired me. It was how they fired me. Like some disposable middle-aged guy with outdated skills and irrelevant knowledge. But my knowledge ran the damn building. They forgot I was still the co-lessee, the legal tenant, and now they were squatters with standing desks. I picked up my phone and started scrolling. Insurance policy still listed my name. HVAC maintenance contract renewed last year under my email. Electrical work permits filed under my contractor's license. Water and sewer accounts routed through a business account I opened in 2010. Everything that mattered still ran through me. I could warn them. Could send an email with subject line, "Hey, missed something important." That's what the old Tom would have done. But the old Tom just got fired for being old. So I closed the lease folder, finished my beer, and decided to let them discover the cliff when they walked off it. The next morning, I wore my good jeans to the meeting with the property manager. Not because I needed to look fancy, but because confidence starts with feeling right in your own skin. Grace Murphy looked up when I walked into her office downtown. She was the kind of woman who'd survived 30 years in commercial real estate by being straight with people and not taking crap from anyone. "Tom," she said, surprised, "didn't expect to see you back here." I smiled. "Let's just say I'm here in my original capacity." She tilted her head. I sat down, pulled out my folder, and handed her the lease packet. Original signatures, all amendments, right down to the coffee stain from our 2012 renewal meeting. "I need to confirm something," I said. "There was no written renewal request submitted by August 1st, correct?" She started clicking at her computer. "No, nothing from Velocity Pay. System shows expired status. I assumed they were going month to month while negotiating new terms." I nodded. "Under Section 6C, expired lease converts to month-to-month tenancy, correct?" Grace leaned back. Her chair squeaked. "Technically, yes, but as Cola C, you'd have—" I pulled another document from my bag. Clean letterhead, legal language, official seal. "I'd like to formally terminate the month-to-month tenancy. 72 hours notice, effective September 6th. Her eyebrows shot up. "You're terminating it?" "Yep. And I've already lined up a replacement tenant." The new tenant was Pacific Northwest Logistics. Big shipping company, expanding operations, flush with e-commerce money. Met their facilities manager at a Blazers game last month. Guy offered $1,200 monthly for the right warehouse. Space downtown. Current rent was $8,500. Grace ran her hand through her gray hair. "This is going to be complicated." "Complicated," I said, standing, was getting fired after 15 years of service. "This is just business." Back home, I opened a legal form on my laptop and filled in the blanks. Plaintiff, Thomas Sullivan. Defendant, Velocity Pay, Inc. and current occupants. Reason for eviction, failure to renew lease, breach of tenancy agreement, unauthorized subletting. Turns out they'd rented a corner office to some cryptocurrency consultant without notifying the property manager. Another small oversight. I filed it online through the county portal, paid extra for expedited processing. The confirmation email arrived with a satisfying ding. Then Kevin emailed me, subject, confirmation of returned property. "Hi Tom, hope you're settling in. Well, we need to confirm you've returned all company property including documentation, access cards, keys, and any physical or digital assets. Please respond to confirm. Thanks Kevin." I didn't hesitate. Hit reply all because Kevin loved copying half the company on everything. Confirmed. Including the ones you forgot I still had. Send. 2 days later, I stood in my kitchen making coffee with one hand and holding the certified letter in the other. Heavy envelope, real letterhead, stamped with county court markings. Plaintiff, Thomas Sullivan. Defendant, Velocity Pay, Inc. Subject, notice of termination and demand to vacate premises. My name in bold at the top. Felt surreal, like seeing your own lottery numbers come up. Except instead of millions, it was justice. Across town, the same envelope landed at reception around 9:15 a.m. Property management sent it priority mail and emailed a PDF copy for good measure. Problem was, the receptionist was some intern named Taylor, probably thought it was spam, tossed it in the recycling between expired energy bars and a broken tablet charger. Meanwhile, upstairs in the executive suite, the leadership team was busy planning their Series B funding round. IPO dreams, market expansion, disrupting traditional banking. One of them was giving a presentation about revolutionizing microtransactions or some other Silicon Valley nonsense. They were too busy swimming in their own hype to notice the tsunami rolling in. I sat on my couch rereading the notice, not because I doubted Tony's legal work, just needed to see the weight of it, the consequence. This wasn't just getting even anymore. This was precision justice wrapped in bureaucracy and delivered by the United States Postal Service. My phone buzzed. Eddie Kowalski from Building Security. Tom, heads up. Something weird's happening. Front desk got some court papers, but management's ignoring it. Feels off. Eddie was one of the good ones. Retired firefighter, understood systems and protocols. Once helped me track down a gas leak that could have taken out half the building. I almost replied, "I'm fine," but that felt dishonest. "I'm better than fine, Eddie. I'm finally getting the respect I earned." He didn't reply immediately, probably processing whatever gossip was brewing upstairs. I imagined the confusion, executives assuming the papers were a mistake or vendor dispute. They were good at that, outsourcing responsibility like it was payroll processing. But the countdown had started, and I'd already removed the safety net. The following Tuesday, Tony's law office smelled like leather and old coffee. Real wood paneling, not that laminate garbage. Motivational poster on the wall. Justice over a photo of a gavel. Tony sat across from me in a brown suit that had seen more courtrooms than a public defender. His hands were steady as he slid the final paperwork across the desk. "Just sign here under terminating party and initial page 3 under authorization." He paused. "You still good with this nuclear option?" I looked down at the document. Incoming tenant. Pacific Northwest Logistics Inc. Effective date, September 6th, 12 Sales p.m. New terms, 15th 200 month, triple net, 3-year contract. I picked up the pen. Only regret is I didn't do this 3 days ago. The pen scratched across the paper like justice being served, and just like that, 15 years of institutional memory transferred to a shipping company with actual respect for working people. Tony sighed. "I'll file this with the court this afternoon. Judge already approved the eviction order. They'll post notice within 24 hours. 72 hours to vacate?" He nodded. From the moment that the orange paper hits their door, no appeals, no extensions. They missed renewal, violated subletting clauses, and ignored termination notices. You handed them the rope. They tied the noose. I left with copies in a manila folder labeled closure, not revenge, just closure. That evening I drove downtown and parked across from the building. Portland looked different at night, sharper, more honest, like everything had been stripped of its daytime pretense. The lights were still on in Velocity Pay's offices, probably burning through overtime pay and DoorDash sushi. Kevin was probably updating his LinkedIn. Austin was probably somewhere practicing his investor pitch with a craft beer and delusions of grandeur. I sipped gas station coffee and cracked the window. That building stood there, clueless and lit up like a Christmas tree, just as blind to what was coming. I looked up at the 3rd floor, my old workstation, now occupied by some DevOps engineer who thinks HVAC stands for having various computer problems. I smiled, not from anger or even satisfaction. It was the smile of a man watching a freight train approach someone too busy texting to hear the whistle. They had no idea that tomorrow morning, a county marshal would tape fluorescent orange papers to their glass doors. That in 72 hours, every standing desk, every beanbag chair, every artisanal coffee machine would be loaded into moving trucks while Pacific Northwest Logistics waited with keys and respect. I sat there until the lights went out, then drove home with the windows down and Springsteen on the radio. The next morning arrived like clockwork. At exactly 8:05 a.m., Austin Palmer strolled into the building like he owned it. $6 oat milk latte in hand, Italian leather shoes clicking like applause only he could hear. By 8:07, he was staring at fluorescent orange paper zip-tied to his office door, laminated, official, impossible to ignore. Notice to vacate property, breach of lease agreement, 72 hours. He tried to rip it off, wouldn't budge, called building security, called his lawyer, called his daddy's lawyer. By 8:30, Kevin arrived to find Austin pacing like a caged animal and half the staff gawking like it was reality TV. By 9 chod, Grace Murphy's phone rang. "Mr. Palmer, this is to confirm enforcement of lease termination. We sent certified notice 3 weeks ago via mail and email. No response received. What notice? We never got any. Court records show delivery confirmation." Your silence was interpreted as acceptance of termination. By 9:15, someone finally connected the dots. Kevin opened his laptop, pulled up the original eviction documents they had ignored. There it was, clear as daylight. Plaintiff, Thomas Sullivan. "Wait," Kevin whispered. "Tom, the maintenance guy?" Eddie nodded from the break room doorway. "Told you something was off." Meanwhile, I was home in my garage, working on my Harley. Oil change, spark plugs, getting ready for a long ride up the coast. Phone buzzing like a hornet's nest. Tony texted, "It's done. Marshall served papers. News van just pulled up. You're a legend." Then Eddie. "They look like tourists in a hurricane. Proud of you, brother." The local business journal ran the story by noon. Tech startup evicted in lease dispute. Former employee triggers legal action. Comments section filled up fast. Wasn't their facilities guy there like 15 years? Dude knew where the bodies were buried. Never fire the guy who holds the keys. I cracked a beer and read every comment. 15 years of invisible work, finally visible. The call came at 7:45 p.m. I was organizing my tool chest, putting everything in proper order. A man needs systems. Austin Palmer's name lit up my phone. I let it ring twice. Picked up on the third. Sullivan speaking. "What the hell do you think you're doing? You can't just evict an entire company." I put him on speaker, opened a beer, leaned against my workbench like I was settling in for my favorite TV show. Because really, I was. "Actually, I can," I said, calm as Sunday morning. And I did. "Read your lease. This is insane. Do you know what this looks like? Our investors are freaking out. The board wants answers." "Austin," I cut him off. "Let me stop you right there. You fired the person who understood the building. All of it. Legal, operational, institutional memory. You didn't even ask who guaranteed the lease. We assumed. That's your problem. You assumed. About everything. About me, about the business, about what I was worth." Silence. Heavy breathing. Probably his blood pressure hitting the red zone. "You blindsided us," he finally said. "No," I corrected. I responded to being blindsided. Difference is, I came prepared. I opened my email, typed a new message. To austin@velocitypay.com. CC. Kevin, @velocitypay.com. Legal, @velocitypay.com. Subject. Company property. As requested. Body. Attached is complete lease documentation, including all amendments and subletting violations. As requested, this confirms return of all company documents. Attachment. Lease. Termination nojesh final.pdf. Hit send while Austin was still hyperventilating. "This can't be legal," he snarled. "Our lawyers will do what they always do," I said. "Protect themselves. Maybe throw you under the bus if the board gets hungry enough. But they won't call me, because I have the paperwork and Pacific Northwest Logistics already wired first month's rent." Line went quiet, then dead. I finished my beer, didn't celebrate, just stood there feeling 15 years of weight slide off my shoulders. The new tenants were scheduled to move in Friday morning. Pacific Northwest had trucks lined up and keys ready. Meanwhile, Velocity Pay was scrambling for temporary space that wasn't a WeWork closet or Austin's trust fund condo. I raised my beer to the empty garage, to endings, to leverage, to being underestimated until it was too damn late. They asked for company property back. I just returned it with interest. By Thursday, Velocity Pay was in full meltdown mode, throwing money at every commercial realtor in Portland. Rumor was they offered Grace Murphy Blazers season tickets and a consulting opportunity to reverse the eviction. Too little, too late. Friday morning hit like a sledgehammer. I sat on my porch with black coffee and my old radio playing classic rock while chaos unfolded downtown. Sky was clear, birds singing. 4 miles away, the former darlings of fintech were loading Herman Miller chairs into a rental truck with expired plates. Kevin wore sunglasses bigger than his ego, barking into his phone like he was negotiating world peace. Someone had taped printer paper to the truck, reading "Strategic Relocation." Nice try. Then Austin lost it completely. Security camera caught him throwing a laptop bag at the truck. It bounced off with a hollow clang that echoed through downtown Portland. Video went viral within 2 hours. When your startup dreams hit reality got 50,000 views by dinner time. Comments were brutal. Did they fire him or just unplug his brain? Laptop toss, Kasek's leadership under pressure. Someone tell him throwing tantrums won't change contract law. Back home, I got a knock. UPS driver with a package. Inside, bottle of single malt whiskey and a note in neat handwriting. Tom, thanks for the space and the lesson. We'll treat it right. Pacific Northwest Logistics. I laughed, real laugh, deep from the chest. First time in years. I poured 2 fingers of whiskey and walked to my living room wall. Next to my Navy discharge papers and my first paycheck from 1983, I hung a small brass hook. From my pocket, I pulled the one thing I'd kept. No ceremony, no drama. Just metal and memory. The original building master key. I hung it like a medal, not because it opened anything now, but because once it opened everything, and now it closed the book exactly how I wanted. Quietly, legally, permanently. Austin Palmer learned that day what every working man knows. Respect the people who keep your world running. Because when you don't, they might just stop. And sometimes they take their world back with them.